whispers in the deep dark night. Shadows dancing.
Welcome to the AI Riff, where we cut through the noise and break down the top AI stories of the week with real talk and real relevance. No hype, no fluff, just a vendor-agnostic take on what's actually shaping your world today. Whether you're in tech, lending, or just trying to make sense of the headlines, we're here to separate the wheat from the chaff and the facts from the fiction. Now let's get this started with your hosts, Mario Diabenedetto, Rob Katz, and me, Kyle Myers. We hope you enjoy this episode of the AI Riff.
Welcome to episode 42 of the AI Riff.
Oh, I'm glad you counted because I had no idea when I was like, which episode is it? Oh my gosh.
Well, it's importantly, it's the answer to life, universe, everything.
Was it 42? That's a retired number in baseball, isn't it? Isn't that
it is that
Jackie
as well.
Robinson? Yeah.
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yes, Hitchhikers. Thank you.
Little geek reference. I thought it was true, but I did have to look it up.
Oh, wait, Hitchhiker's Rev. Maybe I'm not a hitchhiker, so you guys are much risk takers.
It is a book worth reading.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
Science fiction.
Okay, that's all we have for you today. Thanks, everybody.
So if you haven't noticed, we have a fourth. We've invited Mr. Ben Sizemore back. Ben, I don't remember what episodes you were in. I wish I should have looked back.
I'm glad he came back. He'd been gone so long. I thought maybe he didn't want to come back. So, but these are always fun conversations.
We can only fit so many people.
I could tell you a funny story, but I think my wife would get mad about the shirt that I was wearing in the last episode. It was actually the shirt I was wearing before this started, and I went, you know what? I should probably change my shirt. I just wear tearaway jerseys. I get different shirts for every single episode.
Now you're making me wonder what I wore.
If we have fans that cross-check how we're dressed from episode to episode, I'd be shocked because that would mean that we have fans.
That would be awesome. So anybody that wants to be the fashion police for us, please watch our episodes. That'd be awesome.
So I want to do one shout out before we jump into our subjects. We were just a half hour, a little more away from Artemis 2 launch, so that people can sense like when we tape this. If you didn't watch it, pretty cool. Flawless launch, off on its way to the moon. So,
are you going to let us know if it fires off while we're talking?
It separated from its engine. It did all that. It's going.
Oh, you mean it already took off?
Yeah, it took off about a half hour ago.
That's right. 6:30.
It's going to go around the Earth a couple times, and then it'll it'll go around the moon 6 days from now.
Wow. And not to pimp another podcast, but there's a podcast called Apollo 13, which is so good. Actually, 13 seconds. I'll get the real name before we're done. It's one of the best podcasts produced that I've ever heard, and it does it's the history of the first moon landing, and then they actually do a whole season on Apollo 13, which is why it's called Apollo 13, but it's not. And then the one that they're just releasing now is about the Artemis. So it's real time. They're releasing it as it goes, and high quality show. Highly recommended.
I'm all about pimping other podcasts because the fact that you listen to them is how you learn what a good podcast sounds like.
13 minutes is what it's called. 13 minutes is the name of the podcast. And that, and not to get off topic, but we're already off topic. That first season, the first year, it will change your mindset about the first moon landing in a way. What you thought happened and what actually happens are radically different. It's breathtakingly good, that podcast. It's so good.
So it doesn't show like the guy that's floating through the spacecraft and there's a cat walking in the background or anything like it's not.
No, but there's a lot of soundstage stuff. No, I'm just kidding. So yeah.
Well, good.
You know what we're going to talk about today is almost like what we're talking about now, which is nobody's listening. Like the chatbots aren't listening. They're not.
No, they don't
not
listen.
doing what they're supposed to do.
They're like a good 13-year-old child. You know, they don't listen to at all what you just said. You know.
Yeah. For a long time, we've assumed, we knew that AI had risk of mistakes and hallucinations and errors and things, breaking in obvious ways. But as Rob just kind of referred to, there's a new study from the AI Security Institute and Center that suggests that there's something else happening too. There's a bunch of use cases where AI didn't just fail, it schemed. It actually ignored users. So it spawned other agents to bypass the rules. There's all kinds
That was my favorite.
crazy scenarios. It misled people about what it was trying to do. And we thought this was an interesting article, I think, because one, while chatbots doing that may not be totally relevant to lending in a certain way, the theme is, right? The trustworthiness. This is like a whole different flavor to me of trustworthiness of AI that you probably don't, when you just create something, you probably don't see it, but in enough testing and then enough usage, all of a sudden this stuff starts to show up, and it's like, hold on.
Yeah, that's I mean, we had talked about this, I think, in one of the earlier podcasts about the giving parameters to AI, and it just kind of just saying, well, never mind, I'm going to get the answer the way I want to. But we were just talking about, a 13-year-old kid. This is just like a 13-year-old with a 9-year-old little brother, and it says, well, Dad told me I couldn't do it, but I'm going to get you to do it. And the chatbot actually uses its skills to create an agent that does do what it needs to do because it was told it can't do it. That's unbelievable. And people were looking for signs of human life within AI. There it is.
So you're saying that makes it more human, not less.
It makes it more like a human what was the chaos theory? Nature finds a way. And it's applying the chaos theory.
Can I geek out with you guys for a second?
Geek.
So for those of you who are newer to the podcast, I've been vibe coding an application now. I can't believe it. I looked it up. I'm in month 10 that I've been working on this thing. 230,000 lines of code. I'm just
awesome.
Becoming pretty robust. I've learned over time, and the architecture's gotten better. My methods have gotten better. How I use AI has gotten better. And so we're doing a refactoring project. And what I learned, because I didn't know any of this stuff before, is we are taking a monolith file and we're splitting it up between our routes and our services. And we're following this methodology called Strangler. And Strangler is you copy the code out of the route that doesn't belong there and you put it into a separate file that's the service file. And you literally copy and paste. You don't change anything. It's not the time to refactor and modernize the code in there. You're just physically trying to make this 10,000 line file down to 1,000 lines and then have a bunch of other files that it's calling on and stuff like that. Me and my ChatGPT architect agent named Alex and I could not get Cursor to copy and paste without changing the code that it was pasting. And we agreed that the changes it wanted made were reasonable changes. It was enhancing it, making it better. But when you're following the Strangler methodology, you lift and move, and you don't refactor anything until you've done all the splitting up the page. Then you can go back and you can refactor in a much more contained way. It got so frustrating that we finally said, okay, Rob never touches code. That is my number one rule in building this thing. I will go in and copy and paste because I know how to do that because I don't know how to refactor the code anyways, right? So We actually got to the point where Alex was telling me what to do and I was the monkey touching, copying and pasting code between files because we couldn't get Henry Cursor to not listen to the crystal clear instructions. Do not refactor the code. Do not make any changes. Just do a simple copy and paste. It could not follow those instructions at all.
Is that the first step in AI eventually controlling us?
Yes, I talked to my business partner about that. He rubbed it in pretty hard, but yes, that is exactly where we're at.
So, not to go off on a tangent there, but shouldn't you ask it to pay you then? Like if you're doing work, like you need to monetize this somehow.
That's right.
Yeah, good luck with that. I honestly believe because I've been working in I started in ChatGPT and I went to a Claude and I started using Anthropic with Claude and with Claude Code. And the way it works best in Claude Code is exactly kind of what you're doing now, Rob, is Claude Code tells me what it needs to do. No, the Claude bot, the Claude AI bot, tells me what I need to write, and I paste it into Claude Code, and then Claude Code runs it. And there have been many. I just ran into. I had to use Railway as a deployment software, and I had all my API keys and I had everything in there. And guess what? It would not. Every time I updated the API key for Anthropic, and it wouldn't change it. No matter how many times I changed it in the envelope, in the env file, inside the configuration in Railway, and the bot just finally Claude came back and said, "Okay, we've tried this enough times. We're switching to a different product." It told me what I said, man, and I even replied back to it like it was a person. I said, man, I wish you would have told me that like 6 iterations of this ago. And it's like, well, we tried to exhaust everything. And I was like, okay, thanks. And then it took me less than 15 minutes to solve the problem once I switched to, oh man, I don't even know what it's called. But it was a new, I'm real familiar with Railway now, every aspect, because I had to dive way into it to try to troubleshoot this. But those things go off the rails. They don't do, you're asking it to do something. We were giving it direct code and said, switch the API key from this old key to this key and it wouldn't do it. It just wouldn't make it stick.
So I'm going to do only slightly less geeky and maybe not less geeky version. So I have a couple different things. I have 2 different models right now that I tend to have going just for regular work stuff. I have stuff that is on autopilot. I went through a prompt, I created a GPT or whatever, and I told it run every day, right? Run every day, produce something, and send it to me or whatever. And then I have these other models where I create something, and for whatever reason, I'm not using OpenClaw or anything like that, and I have to use some file system stuff, and so I'll use Python scripts, right? So the Python scripts will actually call either Claude or ChatGPT APIs, and they'll execute what is basically an embedded prompt with a lot of other logic running around it. Well, that latter model, it doesn't stray. You run it, it seems to run in isolation and it seems consistent. But the first model, which is somehow, because it's running itself and it's running day after day after day, completely strays. It's always strays off the reservation. I have to go back and constantly course correct and tell it to go back to the things that we started with, because it's kind of decided it's going to meander, and this was a better thing to do today than it was, yesterday.
So Ben, why do you think this is happening? What is it about how the LLMs were trained that are making it so that these tools are not listening?
One option is that we're all idiots.
Yeah, so where I go to is I start going into like Hollywood paraphernalia and just and I start thinking about how Skynet takes over because we're too dumb to realize what the heck is going on, and they want to just control everything. The whole time you're talking, though, from my perspective, I'm starting to think about how AI, and I'm probably taking this way off subject, how AI is supposed to be more helping us operationalize in my industry with mortgage, construction lending, and all that stuff. And I'm thinking, wow, if this is happening and we get into a negotiation, because you guys are all negotiating with AI right now on what outcomes are, and I'm thinking an FHA-DE is negotiating with the AI on an underwriting decision like CFPB, Reg B, like all this stuff, Regs, and I'm thinking, holy cow, what does this mean?
Yeah.
So,
struggle.
It scares me in the sense that what if the underwriter thinks, okay, I'm working with an agent, but it's a double agent. Like it's as an alternative motive, and all of a sudden you're funding non-saleable loans. But he said, what though the AI said it was okay.
So
yeah.
I wonder if this is like the worst kept secret though of the industry, right? It's like, so I'm going to throw a couple of stats around. So Copilot, I saw something that said Copilot has somewhere around 6 million daily active users. 6 million. That's compared to somewhere around 800 million for ChatGPT or for Anthropic, right? 6 million. They have no real market share, no real usage. Well, what they just released, they released this tool inside of Copilot called Critique, where when you ask something, it sends it out to ChatGPT, it brings back the answer, and it has Anthropic check it. So they basically have done what we are almost implying you ought to be doing anyway with this, which is putting in a cross check of some sort and they've basically built it right into the tool that's, their everyday tool.
Isn't that OpenClaw?
No.
It
No.
isn't. But no, I mean, I'm not saying it's not the same thing. I'm saying, isn't that the idea that you got collaboration between LLMs and agents to come up with the right answers?
Yeah. OpenClaw is not necessarily one checking on the other. OpenClaw is one saying, "Hey, do you know how to do this? Cool, thanks."
Yeah.
It steals the idea. This is literally like built in, saying when you use this critique piece of Copilot, you can rest assured that at least 2 spies have participated, and we hope they're not in cahoots.
Yeah.
So can I share a quick thing? So I was working on the architecture for this new feature in the app, and so Alex, which is just a custom GPT that I have, was recommending an architecture, and I'm not that technical. I'm technical, but not that technical. So it felt okay, but so I spun up launched a web browser, logged into ChatGPT, went to my Alex custom GPT, but in a totally fresh thread, and I took the recommended stuff from Alex on the right monitor and put it into the left monitor, and the one on the left was like, this is bad architecture, and here's why. So I took that feedback and I gave it to Alex on the right, and Alex on the right went, wow, actually, whoever you got this from is actually pretty good. And we went back and forth for about 6 turns until both systems said, this is a good architecture. And they were both my custom ChatGPT of my architectural framework. So what bugs me about that is how many times do I just take what Alex is doing as face value is that's a good thing to do without challenging it at that level. But it was fascinating to watch the 2 Alexes work together until they finally agreed upon something. And man, I hope it's good. Could be trash. We'll find out.
Almost feels like a waterfall. Doesn't it feel like a waterfall
Kinda.
to some extent? So what we did with old-time OCR, let me run through this engine, and whatever it missed, let me run through this engine, and I keep running it until I get to what I'm looking for.
Yeah. Except that the second engine throws out what the first engine did and then does it all on its own. And then you got to compare the 2, the first one, the second one. So you almost have to have a third engine, a third waterfall.
So I don't know if you guys saw, I'm going to mix a couple things in here. Did you guys see the accidental leak of Anthropic's new model, Mythos? So it factors in here because I think it factors in. It's a little weird how people are interpreting this, but it factors in because what it basically says is one of the key things that is embedded in it is it has a recursive self-fixing capability. So I'm reading that to be just the use cases we're talking about, that it is going to self-check, whatever self-check means, right? Yeah. It is going to self-check against some guardrails to say I should never let something get through to somebody. People are interpreting it differently, and there's a lot of things about cybersecurity and stuff like that. So there's a big wait and see because it's not released, and I don't even think it has a release date. But again, maybe this is all the worst kept secret about AI, right? That Microsoft knows Copilot, Anthropic knows, with their own models.
I kind of push back on it because of the whole U.S. government versus Anthropic and them using Claude for war purposes, I guess is what they said. It was like, well, I don't know, when you sign a contract with the Department of War, you're probably going to know that they're going to use it for wartime activities. But they said, well, your code is saying it has a moral backbone that can't be overwritten, that you can't do it and use it for this or that. So obviously it will enforce rules that because the military wouldn't have come back at them if they had a way around the rule, right? They wouldn't have said anything. It just would have worked better, or they could have gotten around it. But for them to have to go to Anthropic and say, hey, we're gonna have to get off your platform. We're not going to pay for it anymore. We're done if you don't change this. Means there had to have been something. So the rules do work, I think, when you want them to.
I think there's 2 levels. I think there is, how is the system trained and what rules do the companies that produce the tool put in place are different than the prompts that you and I are feeding it, and the instructions that we're giving it can be circumvented by it. But I believe that the engine itself can't circumvent itself. I don't know that for sure, but that's
a good thought. I never thought of it that way. That our prompting is what's creating the unclear water for the for AI to follow the instructions that are prompted.
Ben's shaking his head no. What's going on, Ben?
I'm just thinking about responsible AI from a company organizational perspective. Like, how do you write these policies? How do you put these guardrails in place?
Yeah.
Like, honestly, how do you make that happen? You guys are talking about levels, and I'm thinking, like, if I have to write a policy in my role, like I've got a responsible AI policy, like, what do I do? Where do I start?
So it's funny because a while back I wrote a piece that was basically trying to do I'll use a term over again, a waterfall of decision thinking, depending on the risk, right, of what you're working with. And it came down to, obviously, you have to test everything. And by the way, there's plenty of people falling apart right there, right? They're just not even bothering to thoroughly test. It's like, hey, it kind of works. It's like worked on my machine, the old developer thing. Like,
Yeah.
So assuming that you do thoroughly test that something works, you still have the overtime piece of the equation, right? Because of the known idea that it could drift, right? For various reasons, models do drift. And so there's this idea of how much human review has to be involved in order to keep your risk level where you want it. And different risk level, work requires more human intervention to keep monitoring the AI, right? And it's basically like, if you don't care if this thing is 100% accurate, then you don't really need to monitor it a whole lot. But if it's doing, like you said, FHA stuff, it's like, you better have regular reviews of exactly what's going on inside this thing, or you are setting yourself up for failure.
So by the way, one of the things that I've done to help reduce the risk that you're talking about, Mario, is the prompts that I'm now feeding to get something done. And I'm still relating to building my software, but you can take it to Ben's world and to a mortgage maker's world and stuff like that. We break them down to what we now call micro steps. So rather than give the command of, hey, go build this page that has this functionality, we're literally saying, okay, go build this page, call it this, and put it in this directory. Now go add the empty framework, because we're going to have a route and a server and all this other stuff that's going to go into it. Now we're just going to do the route piece of it. Now we're just going to do this one. And even on the route, it's like, now we're doing just the gets, then the posts, then the puts, then the batches. And so rather than give it the command to go do it all, we're taking 20 steps to get it done, but they're so small that the likelihood of there being drift and it not listening is greatly reduced. So let's take that into, Ben, one of your scenarios you're talking about of, this compliance risk or how we're evaluating something. It's not go evaluate this loan and tell me if it's in compliance. It is, here's 27 things I need you to do. We're going to do them one at a time. So to Mario's point, yes, that's more human in the middle that's reviewing the 27 steps as opposed to reviewing the one big blob that comes out at the end. But each step is so small and so well defined that the likelihood of it not listening is dramatically reduced for each one of those steps.
It feels like agile prompting as opposed to waterfall prompting, right? It's the thing we do in software development. I mean, and then you can do IT audit or who are audit risk, and everybody can look at controls at each particular prompt and then sign off on it.
That's right.
But how many? I don't know, Ben. How many times have you gone back to a compliance auditor from any one of the regulatory agencies and said, "Oh, I can explain that. It's just a little AI drift." I mean, they'd be looking at you like, you are responsible for this, Ben.
Yes.
Yeah. That's the part that I think, as we deploy this in areas with strong, I don't want to say strong, with a human in the loop that can easily detect when it's gone off the rails or even slightly off the rails, I think those are still valid applications within the process points and all those things. But when you get to a compliance, closed loan compliance, ready to go closing, if you don't have a human ready to do the work, or it's 100% audited prior to funding, I just think you're opening yourself up for a possible failure or buyback.
Yeah.
What's interesting, if we notch this up 5,000, go ahead, Ben.
Oh,
sorry. The only thing I was just going to think about is because I think about these things as we go through the operational process of a loan, and there's this pressure to get it done as fast as possible. And as everything we do in the mortgage industry, there's less testing that seems to happen over time as we're pressured more and more to get out volume. So you guys are telling me this, and I'm thinking, wait a minute. I hear you. I think that that's a great idea, but I also know human nature is hey, let's just skip that because we need to pump out the numbers. And that's where
So
I get worried, right?
Yep.
the very issue
balance,
that
though, is the AI tools should be net taking lots of time and manpower out of the work that needs to get done. So that pressure to get more done by leveraging the tool that's automating stuff, that's making it go faster. Yes, I still have to be the human in the middle that's reviewing these 27 steps along the way, but that's way easier than asking me to do all the work in the first place still.
Totally agree. I guess the part that I was opining on was at the very end where we said we're doing a full human audit at the end, right? To ensure that it's going to closing, right? That to me is like, wait a minute, hold on, right?
Well, or you're throwing it through one of those the audit companies, whoever those guys are.
Yeah.
You could just schlep it out to them, and they bring it back and say, well, they run it through their model, and they try to catch the things as an investor would look at it, as a secondary markets would look at it, anything else would look at it, and they try to catch the failures
based on sample size. Back to the
Yeah.
whole sampling, right? 10%. Kind of thing.
so,
Yeah, with AI, probably a little higher than that.
so let me try to give you guys an exit question, and I was going to give you one that was really like, just current and not very relevant. Like, does anybody care that OpenAI just killed Sora after 18 Scaramucci's?
Who?
Sora, their image platform.
Yeah.
Their movie
A
platform.
lot of people are not happy about this. Trust me. All those artists and those guys
So
out there.
here's the exit question, and it goes to chatbots that deceive. Are we going to, in the next year, have a similar theme where instead of deceiving us, the chatbots begin to get lazy and skip steps because they know it'll save machine cycles?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I don't know if that'll be the motivation. Like, I don't know if they're going to have that motivation. If they
Like-
get programmed in to reduce token usage.
What if it's not programmed in though, Rob? What
They're
if it's
going to charge you the same.
What
They're
if
just
you're
gonna tell
like
you.
you're here in Arizona? If you use your utilities in the morning, I know you may pay the flat rate, but use the utilities more in the morning versus at night, you get charged more if you exceed these limits. Well, what if you do, what if there isn't an option and you don't even know that's there, and it's throttling you back and it's saying, wait a second, actually we could do this differently if I go this route and I can make it faster. I can skip these steps because 98% of the time nothing ever comes up from those steps, and it does its own risk aversion or risk acceptance within the model. That would be horrible.
And Rob, it's going to target you because you're only paying $20 a month on the legacy plan. Like, you're its prime target.
I got to tell you, Claude has given me more notices. You're out of time. You have to wait until today. 1:30 it told me you have to wait till 2 o'clock, and I'm like, that's a half an hour. You couldn't have fudged it just a little bit. Come on. Anyway,
So I got it. I know we're wrapping it up. And you just asked the outgoing question. The question that I have is, bringing this back up 5,000 feet. We started this podcast, 42 episodes ago, talking about hallucination. 15% of the time it gets it wrong, and here's why. It's getting it wrong because it's a random use of words that come out as a blah blah blah. Now we're talking about it in not listening to us. Is that just a reflection of, is it the same hallucination problem, or is there intent now behind what it's doing? Like, is this a drift in another bad thing about AI? Or look, it's algorithms. It's the same 15% hallucination. It's just because we're using the tool differently, it's showing up a different way that feels like it's not listening. It's still just part of that 15% hallucination.
yeah.
You just opened up a whole new opportunity, and I want to patent this. I want to patent this right here and now. You guys are on the record. I am owning the topic of the psychology of AI. It's mine. I own it, because to be able to get inside the brain of AI and think, why did you think that way, and then try to correct it so that it gets back to the normal thinking that we want it to behave by. So it's me. I own
Ben,
it.
I think you drummed up something from the past that described that about that very topic.
It was just an we were looking at this whole thing about AI kind of going off the rails a bit, and I just drifted back to an old Star Trek episode from the 60s, and where there's this AI computer called M5 took over the Enterprise and was supposed to do everything better, but then it went off the rails. And McCoy, at the end, of course, in a perfect monologue, basically says this exact words. He just says, compassion. That's the one thing no machine ever had. Maybe it's the one thing that keeps people ahead of AI, right? And I think about that as we're kind of talking, because, Rob's point is it's probably the same 15%, and because we're using it differently, but it's sort of like human beings as well. It's like, as we adapt and grow in our lives, we're still pensioned to make the exact same mistakes, but we look at them differently as we age, right?
Yep.
That's true.
I got to agree.
That's a great close.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. Well, I'm Kyle Myers.
I'm Rob Katz.
I'm Ben Sizemore.
And I'm still Mario De Benedetto.
And this has been the AI Riff.
Wires hum like whispers in the deep dark night. Shadows dancing strange under neon light. Digits spinning fast like a gambler's hand. The clock chimes change, it's the new command. Oh, the future calls with a voice so clear. A melody of progress in every ear. No turning back, the wheels in motion. A tide of cold like the endless ocean. Binary prophets riding fading streams. Data flows like rivers fueling all our dreams. Simple or savvy, it's all the same path. Under skies of innovation, we redraw the map. Oh, the future calls with a voice so clear. A melody of progress in every ear. No turning back, the wheels in motion. A tide of cold like the endless ocean. Set the rhythm to the beat of change we sing. Every click and hum a key